Alright, so this is the DualSense controller for the PlayStation 5. It also works on PC. So how is it for speedrunning, or serious gaming in general? I think it's a quite ergonomic controller. It feels pretty good. However, there's one cardinal sin already, which is that the stick drift problem is real. After a few hundred hours, my right stick here drifts. It's different than like when an N64 controller wears out and you can just kind of feel how loose it is. This one still feels right, but in-game this thing's going to be sending inputs quite inaccurately. You're going to have spinning cameras, etc. It's quite unfortunate. It's like a $70 controller, and the sticks are likely to go first because they're not really built to last. The D-pad on the controller feels pretty good. It's definitely better than the Switch Pro Controller D-pad. You have this like separation between the different directions. However, it's still a connected piece underneath. So if I hold down just left, I can still access up and down just by applying force. And that works pretty well. This entire mid piece of the controller is actually a functional button that can also detect where you're pressing it. It can also interpret swipe inputs. In Hogwarts Legacy, when you're navigating the map, you can warp the cursor by using the touchpad, which is faster than using the joystick. And in Forspoken, the swipe inputs can be used to change between your different magic trees. I tend to not use this input during my gameplay, however it seems like a perfectly viable input. As is the trend with modern controllers, this has no notches, it is a perfect circle. So if you want to find that perfect forward input, you'll have to find it yourself. You know, in the past, the N64, the GameCube, the Wii Nunchuck, these controllers had notches built in so you could easily find the cardinal directions and also have easy access to diagonals. This trend has gone away, for better or worse. You can also access L3 and R3 even when the joystick is fully pressed in a direction. Works pretty well. The shoulder buttons, you have a digital L1 and R1 and an analog L2 and R2. Overall, pretty good. The DualSense also features this haptic feedback with the L2 and R2 buttons. However, this seems a little bit gimmicky to me. It seems to work quite well for the game Astro's Playroom, and I'm sure Astrobot will also benefit from the haptic feedback. However, functionally it just seems like not really necessary. I also have another comment about the gyro aiming on the DualSense. I have not seen a game that utilizes it well. On the 3DS, I saw a great utilization of it with Ocarina of Time 3D aiming. That carried over on the Wii U and the Switch, with games like Splatoon and Breath of the Wild. So on Nintendo's end, it seems like Nintendo has a pretty good understanding of how to utilize gyroscope in games, whereas I haven't quite seen that on the Sony end. I did try Foam Stars and Resident Evil 4 Remake demo, and I found the gyro aiming options in both of those games to be lackluster. Another thing too is that in the game that I'm speedrunning for Forspoken, I like to be able to control the camera while also holding down the circle button, because circle is the flow button. It can be remapped, but I started claw gripping like this, basically able to have control over the right stick while still being able to press down the circle button. Now that's like a little bit unergonomic, but it's actually pretty standard across games over the years. It's been a habit for a lot of different games to use a claw grip for advantageous reasons. Another reason you'd use a claw grip in Forspoken is to hit this button, the options button or the pause button, and then immediately press X to confirm that you want to skip the cutscene. If you're just using your thumb to try to cover all this, you're going to actually take time to move your thumb from one to the other. So by having a claw grip, that can be done more quickly. But there is something better here, and that is the DualSense Edge. It actually comes in a case. Now this thing is actually $200. It's very similar, however it does have some advantages. So these sticks now can be replaced. You can actually pop them out and replace them. So if they break, and they're likely to be the first thing that would break, they can now be replaced. So in a way you can kind of save money by repeatedly replacing the stick. I'm hoping there will be hardware improvements to make the controller less likely to fail. Another thing this controller allows you to do is actually set how deep the shoulder buttons are. So for the game that I'm speedrunning Forspoken, I basically treat the L2 and R2 buttons as digital buttons, and I set it to be the shortest distance. It's kind of nice to just have this like shorter press here. It becomes more like a digital input. The DualSense Edge also comes with one other innovation, and that is the extra buttons on the back. Now these are two buttons that can actually be mapped to any other input. And so instead of needing to claw grip, circle, and right stick, I can simply use my thumb on the right stick and then use my middle finger in the back of the controller to be able to hit both of those simultaneously with more comfort. I think the addition of buttons for the middle finger is a pretty good innovation actually, and it's definitely more ergonomic having access to more options with an extra finger. It applies to both the left and right hand.